All right, so over the next 3 days, I want to do a new series where it's basically 3 days and 3 ways how to fix each form of PvP in ESO. I'm not going to cover dueling because I don't really see any point in covering dueling. Dueling is dueling, there's not really anything else to it. So today, I want to start with Battlegrounds and how I would fix it in a more fair and kind of yes, it's competitive, but also I want to make it a more balanced overall matchmaking system because right now it is awful. Let's be completely honest. Battlegrounds right now is awful, and you can't convince me otherwise. That's just the cold hard facts. That's the truth. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to see happen in Battlegrounds that I think is something that people don't really discuss too often is I want to see sigils. Synergize sigils. Say it fast. So I want to see if one team gets a power sigil on their side. I want to see the other team get the power sigil on their side as well. I want to be able to see kind of mirrored sigils more or less. Because what happens is if one team gets a power sigil and the other team doesn't, that usually ends up in a steamroll, and then that sets a precedent for the rest of the match. That becomes a steamroll. That one team that did get the power sigil starts to roll over the other team, and it becomes an overall cycle where that one team is basically in charge more or less the entire time. Obviously, that doesn't happen every time, right? But I would say about 90% of the time it does happen. So I think that that's overwhelming odds, and I see it so often. I play Battlegrounds every single day, and I know what I'm talking about, trust me. So I think this is one thing that would help kind of balance the matches out because what would happen is both teams would either have a lot of damage or both teams would either be really tanky, both teams would be really fast. Whatever it is, I want to see more of that. Because if we do that, then it makes it so that these games aren't complete steamrolls. It makes it so that they're even, and especially more even at the beginning of the fight. Because that alone right there is something that is just, I feel like it goes really unspoken. And it's something that really starts off the matches and happens so that you kind of can't really gain your footing if you're the losing team, because what happens is your team kind of starts to stagger. You go in one at a time afterwards, you're not together anymore, and then from there you're just fighting an entire team and you're just dying every single time. And people really don't group up that much in BGs, and people don't kind of think about, hey, what if we backed up and waited as a team? People don't really do that in BGs. So I don't know, that's just something to think about, and that's just something that I really want to see more in BGs because I think it'll be really important to see. I think that if we see those sigils on the same side, I think it would make for much more even matches. I would see so much more of an actual good fight at the beginning rather than an overall steamroll. Because every time that I load into a BG, the first thing I look for is where are the power sigils? Is there a power sigil out there? If not, what's the next best sigil? I always go for the sigils, and I feel like people don't do that. People really sleep on the amount of damage you can get from it. People really sleep on the defenses you can get from it, on the speed, all that stuff. You always want to get the sigils, and they are so important to the 8v8 BGs that if you make it so that they're mirrored, then it creates a much more even environment. So I think that would be one thing that would help. Second thing that I really want to see is less spawn timers. I want to see the 2 minutes that's in the spawn timer. I think that there should be 2 minutes at the beginning because that's gonna, if you don't have the 2 minutes at the beginning while you're loading for your BGs, you're just gonna respawn over and over and over and over again. It's gonna get annoying. It's gonna get kind of in your face. Either way, it's bad. So what I want to see instead is I want to see those timers reduced when the game actually starts. I want to see that reduced to, personally, I want to say 20 seconds, but I think 25 seconds is a little bit better because what it does is the reason why I'm going to 20 to 25 seconds is because the death spawn timer is 20 seconds. So if you die, you have enough time to kind of regroup as an entire team. And if you spawn, then you can wait out that next cycle in case somebody else dies on your team. Then you can kind of spawn together and then you can jump down together. So if it's not that 20-second cycle, then your people are just going to wait 2 minutes. And personally, I don't understand the point of the 2 minute rule. The 2 minute rule is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, and I genuinely not liked it from the start. I think it's one of those things that promotes people to just sit and spawn and go, all right, just like you're not promoting a healthy PvP environment. People queue into PvP, make them PvP. That's the best way I could put it. Don't let them just stand up in the corner, just looking at the sun, looking at the daisies, all this stuff. Make them fight, make them PvP. They actively queued into this. Nobody forced them to queue into this situation. So if you make them go and fight, then either one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to learn, they're going to get better, or the match is going to end faster. One of the two things. And if the match ends faster, everybody can move on with their day and get on to the next match. And so if we have those matches going on faster, more people can play matches, all that stuff. So personally, I think that 2-minute timer seriously needs to be reduced. Like, it is awful. I'm not a big fan of it in the slightest. I really want to see it reduced significantly. There's no reason to have 2 minutes on there. It like I said before, people, like, the amount of times that I've gone into matches and the one team steamrolls at the beginning, and then you just see the rest of the team just staying up top, not spawning. We have to wait 2 minutes for them to get spawned down, and then just they die instantly. And we just have to wait for another 2 minutes. Personally, I'm kind of tired of it. I'm kind of at a point where I'm just like, hey, like, what are we doing here? Like, why do we spawn into PvP to not PvP? Nobody's forcing you to PvP. So if you PvP, go PvP. That's the best way I could talk about it. That's the best way I can explain it. I know I just said PvP like 5 times in a row, but you know what I mean, regardless. That timer seriously needs to be reduced, because if it does, it promotes a healthier PvP environment and people can actually play the game. Like, who would have thought people could play the game? And I think that that's a good thing to have in the game. I think that that's good to promote an active PvP environment. It kind of forces people into those fight or die situations, and that's kind of how PvP should be, in my opinion. This isn't PvE, this isn't questing, where people are just like, well, I can just pause anytime. No, guys, this is PvP. This is a completely different environment, and people need to kind of realize that. People need to accept that, because if you don't, well, then it's just gonna keep on having this active cycle of just like spawning in, dying, and just waiting there. You're just waiting for a match to be over. Like, I personally, either way, regardless. So that leads me to my third and final way that I would adjust the matches, and that is get rid of two-sided BGs. Two-sided BGs are horrendous, and they're awful. And I cannot I cannot stress this enough. Two-sided BGs are awful. And the reason why they're awful is because ESO was never meant for two-sided combat. Every single other form of PvP in the game, besides dueling, Imperial City, Cyrodiil, all that stuff, it was always based around three-sided BGs. And three-sided BGs were always meant for, hey, if one team is spawn camping the other, the third team can come around back and kind of break that stalemate and break that kind of cycle. And so what happens, it creates a continuous flow of PvP. Instead, what happens, instead of having those three teams of having a continuous cycle, you have one team smack the other team, then this team doesn't move. And that's all it is. It just continuously smacks it over and over again. That's all that happens. And that's all that two-sided matches are every single time. That's all it is just one-sided stomps 90% of the time. And it's unfortunate that we have this. Now, am I saying that we need to go back to the 4v4 formula? No, I'm not saying that by any means. You can take what you've learned from 8v8 and kind of change that. So what you could do is we're filling 8v8 lobbies, right? More or less. Obviously, that's me being very generous, and that's me giving it a stretch. But what I consider as well, instead of 4v4, change it to 5v5v5, make it so that there's more people on the board, and that still creates a 15-person lobby. So it's not like you're adding crazy extra numbers to these lobbies. And so what you do there is in a 5v5v5, instead, what happens is you have that continuous cycle again, and you have power sigils, and you have defensive sigils, you have all these sigils back in play, so that teams can still kind of overwhelm each other without having a complete deadlock, but then don't have those sigils spawn too often. Have them spawn like 2, maybe 3 times around. And then you have it so that whoever grabs those sigils, maybe they're in charge for a little bit, maybe they're not. Who knows? But it makes a much better continuous gameplay. Those old BG maps, they were actually fun. They actually had so much to do with it. The one format where you spawned in the sky, and then you could choose one of 3 different areas to walk out of. That's really cool. I like that a lot. And there's so many other good maps, like the map with like where you can mount up and then you go run the Idrinis Outpost. Is that what it's called? Either way, there's so many good maps in the 4v4v4 setting that are just going to waste now. And I just think that the game would do so much better and it'd be so much more healthy and it'd be so much more of a active PvP environment if we brought back that three-sided matchup, which almost every other form of PvP is based around. So personally, that's how I would fix BGs. And I think that that would kind of bring things back to a little bit of a fun point of view. I think it's a little bit better that way. Because if you're alone on a team of 8v8 and your other players are, players, you're not winning a 1v8. I don't care who you are, you're not winning that. I've been in those situations, it's bad. That being said, it's a much better time if you're on those smaller teams. And if your team's not good, you can still feel like you put in a lot of work. So personally, those are the three ways that honestly I would fix PvP so quickly. I think that that would honestly bring BGs and overall just PvP back to a really good form and a really good place. So guys, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. I'd love to hear you guys' feedbacks and let me know. I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next video. All right, later.